We've got a lot of things to talk about. So I want everybody to, since you've all been upgraded into panelists, I want everybody to introduce themselves so that way you guys see each other's faces and get to know each other. But the thing I want to know is your name, the brigade, and one event planning thing that you'd like help with. And then I want you to also put that up in the, in your, where you put your name in your brigade. Who wants to go first? Jesse.
Sure, there we go. So hi, everybody. My name is Jesse from Code for San Francisco. One thing that we would like help with is, it's a good question, probably putting together programming. I'm curious what other people are doing, so maybe it'll give us some ideas.
Cool. Who's next?
I'll go next. Chris from Open Raleigh Brigade. And I think the biggest challenge for us is learning to say no and learning to know when we have enough content to let it go and keep adding stuff.
Janet.
Yeah, I'm Janet Michaelis, Code for Dayton. We need help with. We need some luck, but I think we're okay because we're just going to scale to what we can manage, and we have a place and a time, and it'll be what it'll be.
Okay. Patrick. Okay. How about Marga?
Hi, I'm Marga Spring. I'm with Civic Data Alliance in Louisville, Kentucky. Probably the most helpful thing for us for event planning would be an actual checklist. Basically to check off, make sure we've covered or assigned all the areas that need to be covered and assigned for an event.
Cool. Hey, Neil, you're up. Neil, you're on mute.
Why did they invent those things? I get to do take two. So I actually am not part of the planning team this time around, and I'm hoping Tom might be able to. Yes, he's nodding. Yes, good. Tom will answer the question.
Okay.
Awesome. I think.
Thanks, Tom.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, Tom with Code for America and Open Oakland, and I think Rami is the anonymous caller on the attendee list here. So she's listening, but I think she's in transit, so can't talk. So I'll try to say, I think we have some concepts and we have a venue for the event, and so I think what I would like to see most is like people's marketing plans, or like how people are getting the word out about this to your constituencies, and how we can sort of work together on communication around that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
hey,
mean,
Brittany,
just to jump back in again.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead now.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, as soon as something has a shape to it, I'll certainly jump in and do exactly what Tom said, but I've just pulled back this time around.
Fair enough. Okay, Brittany?
Yeah, so I know one of our big goals for the organization going forward is really figuring out how we do long-term engagement, both with community members and with our volunteers. And so one of the things we've been shifting away from in hackathons past was this like hardcore, it's a whole weekend, it's a whole day, it's, things like that, and seeing if we can move them towards being kind of sustainable engagement along with hack nights. But yeah, end goal, how do we make people feel like it's not just you come in, you leave again, and prevent some forms of burnout?
Burnout.
Okay, and Patrick, are you with us?
I am. Sorry, I was wrapping up another. and I am doing what our goals are. Is that the sorry?
What is it? What event planning thing do you feel like you need the most help with?
I would say coordination with everyone else. We just got our venue at the LA Clean Tech Incubator, so I mean,
Very nice.
but yeah, would love to figure out.
So you're talking coordination with the rest of your team or coordination with like partners?
Oh, the other brigades. We have sort of
Cool.
general ambitions to do some California-wide stuff that we're talking about tomorrow. So I was here to learn about what's going on nationally and then going to that conversation. But yes.
Sweet. Erie, do you want to add anything?
I'm Erie, and the thing that I really, really want is to figure out how, when you throw all these amazing events, how we can spike the press coverage. So all the folks in town know that you had an incredible event and why it was amazing.
Cool. Veronica, you want to add anything?
Hey everyone. This is my first open data day that I'll be a part of, so I'm really eager to listen to how all of your events are planned and executed.
Cool. Hey, Remy, are you in a place where you can talk? Are you? Okay, I'm going to assume Remy's answer is the same as the rest of Open Oakland, which is great.
Yeah, I don't think that there's an ability for her.
She told me by text that she was traveling right now, or like walking.
Fair enough.
Probably not.
Okay, but Maya just joined as well.
Oh, excellent.
Oh, hey, Namai. Unmute yourself.
Somehow, hold on. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
How about now?
Excellent. So introduce yourself to the crowd, and then and what city you're in, and then tell me what it is about the event planning you'd like to learn.
Oh, hello everyone. My name is Nehemiah. I am from St. Louis. OpenSTL is what we call our brigade, and I'd like to know how to market how to best succinctly describe this so we can kind of market it properly.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is sort of a review of government-provided data, right? So how do we get government participation afterward?
Cool. Excellent. So I think we're going to cover some of this stuff, and then some of it can be done in more of a follow-up stuff, but I'm super excited to hear that some of the things you guys are actually looking for is stuff that we'd already planned to tell you. So yay. So the first thing we're going to do, I'll just give you a brief summary of like what Code for Charlotte normally does for our events. We do, and I really like Aaron from Orlando's framing of a civic design, because that's basically what we do. We don't do normal hackathons anymore. We haven't for a few years now, probably like 3 years, because we basically have a mini hackathon every Tuesday night. We meet for our hack nights weekly. And so I don't see any point of doing that at a larger scale. What we use our events for is to bring in more community involvement, more partners, and get the message out to people who aren't attending a normal hack night, and start to map out those sustainable projects and areas of focus that we want to address. So that's kind of what we use them for instead of a normal one. For any of you that were at Brigade Congress, you'll figure out I like reasonably uncomfortable icebreakers that make their audience think. I am a firm believer that if you make them uncomfortable with each other right up front, they work together faster. And like our National Day Civic Hacking event, we call it Hack for Change. And we did economic development in the fall. What we had them do was go around and answer kind of the same thing a lot of you did at Brigade Congress, where I'd make you stand in a different area of the room depending on your answer to things that of privilege. Have you ever been on food assistance? Have you ever needed to depend on public transportation? Have different degrees of economic mobility and privilege, and made them stand around the room where they were. There was one area in the room that was always a higher level of privilege, and that was always like number 4. So when you saw somebody stand in there almost most of the time, it's worth calling that out. So I'm a big believer of that kind of stuff, of making things a little bit more uncomfortable, because I think once you break down that uncomfortableness and you're accepting of everybody's different place that they start at, you can get them to come to the middle and start making solutions better. So we always do kind of uncomfortable ones like that. Open Data Day, we're planning on doing a housing necklace. So you pick a bead for every level of privilege that you have when it comes to housing. And those with the most beads, obviously, haven't had a lot of housing insecurity. And so that's the goal. So I kind of like to do weird stuff like that. But it's a very visual thing to make them understand where their biases are and things like that, if that all makes sense. So those are the biggest things that we do that may or may not be different with a lot of other groups. Outside of that, if you'll notice up in the resources, I gave you guys 3 of my most commonly used ones. So I've been doing event planning for a very long time. I started out doing concert promotions in high school, did literary promotions in college, worked for the International Olympic Committee for a while, worked for DNC for a while, worked for other large organizations, did large tech conferences for a long time. So this is kind of my distilled list of things that I've learned over the last 20 years of doing events, for which are all viewable and shareable. Take them and work them as needed. And let me know if there's anything in there that you feel like is missing, because they're always in iteration and progress. So that's kind of what we do in Charlotte. Do you guys have any questions?
Can we get a little more detail on or at least even after the meeting? I'm curious about the 4 corners of the room and how to define that, because there's so many ways to kind of describe what are people's challenges.
Sure. So yeah, normally they are very specific as far as what the theme is. But I'm pretty sure I wrote up the documentation for the one that we did at Hack for Change. But basically you ask a question and they have to stand in. 1 means that they've experienced it. And then 2 means it's more of a familiar connection. And 3 is an associate connection, and 4 means you either haven't ever had a connection with us or not. For example, have you ever been incarcerated? 1 is yes, 2 is you've had family, 3 is you've had friends, and 4 is you don't know anybody who's ever been incarcerated. Does that make sense? Those are kind of how you frame those questions.
No, you're fine. I was just typing, but yeah, so we're doing something on food security, and so the housing security, and then the other one made me think that's probably would fit perfectly into that upcoming goals, addressing issues with food security in Tulsa.
Cool. I can put in more. I'll stick them some more stuff in the resources.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I got here at 7:12, which means I've probably missed at least something. Is there much or just bullet points? I'd like to apologize.
No problem. It's mostly in the bullet points. Oh, you probably need, let me repost the link because I don't think you get there's the agenda. I don't think you get the chat that happened before you showed up.
And
so there's a link to the
notes.
agenda.
The notes are gorgeous.
Yes, we talked about dinosaurs in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Other things.
You're good.
Yeah.
Robots.
robots, important things.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. So if you have other questions, go ahead and throw them up in the questions section as well, or the notes section. And now Margot's going to tell us about what some stuff about Civic Data Alliance in Louisville and what they do.
Okay, yeah. So we are planning for Open Data Day. One of the new things that we're going to be trying for our events that we haven't implemented until we're going to actually do the trial run this Saturday at our Food Insecurity Hackathon. But the progressive stack, we're going to run our events, you know, utilizing the progressive stack. So allowing people who are in the, there's lots of crossover with what you were talking about, Jill. And I'd like to see, I'm going to dig into what you were talking about too, because I think that would be a good way to switch it up each time. So basically the most marginalized group speaks first in each project, right? And it progresses from there to the least marginalized group, right? So that's going to be interesting. We'll see how it'll be the trial run this Saturday, and then we're going to institute that in all of our events going forward. There's also going to be, we have our users group in Louisville, and the two founders of that group are going to be doing a data science intro for citizen scientists in R. So basically intro to R, yay, and maybe Python. Maybe some Python if there's, you know, if there is the interest. And they're going to utilize data like the fire incidents data and the zip code shapefile from the Open Data Portal in Louisville, the city's Open Data Portal that we have. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to also do a how-to for the Open Data Portal that while we're doing the demos and introducing people to, you know, what the portal is, how you can use it, why you should use it, how you can maybe use it in your project, your personal project, your personal research. We're also going to do some screencasts that we archive and then give to the Metro to use, you know, to put on the portal, basically, so that they don't have to get that info together. Because there's no like how to use the data portal 101 on the portal. It's basically like, here's all the data. And if you're just a person who's not familiar, you know, with CSV files or whatever, you might be like, what is this? What is this good for? So we're gonna address that. That would be really helpful, I think, for everybody in Louisville. And then we're also going to be dealing with, we just wrapped up the first iteration of the Data for Good exchange in conjunction with Data for Democracy. There are several of us that were working with them to develop a data science code of ethics. So right now it's basically in the discussion, documentation, and philosophical argument phase. So we'll be going through we're in the refinement process now. So anybody who's interested in that project is welcome. And anybody here, all y'all's brigades, I put the links in there. Come join us. It is a lot of fun. And it's a really exciting project. I mean, there's a lot of really good discussion going on in that area. So that's what we're going to be doing in Louisville.
Awesome, thanks. Sorry, I was trying to put a link in there. Okay, so cool. I'm super excited about your intro to R, and that's super nerdy, but I'm really excited about it. Okay, so Chris is also going to tell us about what some stuff that Open Raleigh is doing. Open Raleigh Brigade, sorry.
And Nehemiah Nehemiah had a question.
Oh, yes.
About what data portal are you running on, Margot?
It's the city uses DCAN. The mirror that we're in the process of setting up on Civic Data Alliance's website will use JCAN because Jekyll's great. And JCAN is awesome. So that's what our personal, like our brigade mirror will be, but the city's is DCAN.
Cool. Any other questions? Okay, Chris, you're up.
Okay, I'm Chris Matthews, one of the co-captains for the Open Raleigh Brigade, and we've been doing civic tech events now. This is our 8th year in the area. Me and Jason Hibbets, we started when Code for America started. We've through a Brigade network. This will be our 6th Open Data Day event. So we've been doing this quite a bit. One of the first things that I'm kind of really excited about this is one of the professors from the UNC School of Journalism is coming in to do a workshop on data journalism with some hands-on exercises, people getting data from data portals, using it, telling stories with it. So we're really excited about that. Traditionally, all of our events have actually been very education-oriented on how to use an open data portal, what are the open data portals, what data is available. So we've been really successful with that. We're going to be doing some more of that this year because even within Wake County, we have 8 separate municipalities, including the county, each with its own open data portal. And we federate those data. So even then, if you go to the surrounding counties, we actually have more data and more data and more data. So the whole sort of onion layer of onion type of thing, the way the data portals are set up in our area. So we're going to be doing that type. What are new portals? What are some use cases? Like, for instance, we just did a multi-jurisdictional park locator and park liking app that takes data from several different portals, Esri, Socrata, and Open Data Soft, combines them together and shows them off to people just can find the best place for disc golf or the best place to play for boating or whatever it is that they want to do, rather than worry about where it's coming from.
That's great.
So we have that part. We also have some policy that we like to get done whenever we can. The town of Cary is moving forward with an open data policy, and they want to get feedback from the attendees. So we're going to have them do a session. We also have some projects that we'll be looking at. There's a data hub being developed in the city of Durham that they want to show off some of their progress on. I didn't write that down, but the big thing this year, and something that we started back in September talking about, was doing a hackathon around specific topics. We've done ones in the past around food insecurity and around nonprofit member, around nonprofit memberships. But this year we're working on affordable housing. So we started talking and we found some agencies that have data, like the North Carolina Housing Finance Association, Habitat for Humanity, Raleigh Area Land Equity Endeavor, and we've been working with them to frame questions, specific questions that they need answered, and working with what data do they have available to them and what data they need access to. So we'll hopefully be working those details out as we move along. As far as that, and we're using this as a first event through the entire year. So some of the projects and some of the questions that we develop here will continue on to our next event, which is our Civic Action Day, and then our National Day of Civic Hacking, and then Civic Camp, and then finally we have an open data competition that we actually do prize money for at the end of the year. So we'll be carrying those events throughout the entire year type of thing. So that's what we're hoping to do with this. And then next year, come up with different types of things and continue with another topic area. So those are really the things that we've been doing. We're doing it a lot. We've used a lot of different tools to get the word out and stuff like that. So that's about it.
Awesome. So are you guys still splitting all of your year events between the 3 brigades?
We will probably be bringing Durham into the picture. Cary's gone a little, is in silent running mode right now. So when they are ready to re-engage, we will be bringing them back in. But right now, they're not really to the point that they can help out a lot.
Okay. Cool. Does anybody have any questions for Chris?
I just love everything that I've heard. My God, can I come? The thing that really struck, thing that I really haven't heard much of before, and it may well happen for us in Open Oakland, but I just really haven't ever thought about it is just how the topics and the conversations kind of get threaded throughout the year. I mean, that may well happen organically. I don't track everything, but I just thought that was really worth mentioning. And I imagine even that there's a way that that can actually be seeded by the organizers. So that's one thing, one takeaway that I haven't, that's new to me. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the conversation started at last year's event around affordable housing because it was a hot topic at the time. We were doing the add-on housing, the not in my backyard, the two opposing forces about doing that. So we were kind of seeing that played out in the election cycle. So we thought that was a good topic. And we just had several people just had conversations. And then December, we just more formalized how do we make something happen about this. And that's how we did that. So it does start organically until we actually get enough momentum behind an idea. And then we try to formalize it a little bit more.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions for Chris? Okay, so Brittany, you're up.
Yeah, so I guess to give a little background on kind of where I'm coming from. So I started with Code for Tulsa about 2 years ago, and I just became a captain a couple months ago. And a lot of my goals are based on kind of my own challenges and concerns that I had when I was first getting started with the organization. Because we're a very organic and grassroots organization, which meant I didn't always know who was a resource or who to talk to or things like that. And I noticed pretty quickly going along that the group is made up of a lot of people who do a lot of amazing things organically, which is, I feel like every contact I've had with any other brigade as well. It's just a lot of amazing people who do amazing things organically. But it does make it a little difficult to distill. But I'll do my best. So I think Carlos is my best counterpart on general community engagement because he's really the guy who brings to the table all of the great ideas and projects that we work on. And for him, I know that's a ton of relationship building. And he goes to city council meetings and he's got close contacts with so many charities in town, with public defender's office and things like that. I've been hoping to help grow us from being people who have kind of lose contact with Code for Tulsa to people who are genuinely invested in the organization. And I feel like a lot of that is knowing that people have a support structure. One of my things I really want to try and work on is preventing burnout, which is for me in kind of any leadership role in the organization is making sure that if their life has gotten too busy, if they are having challenges with the project because they took it on because they want to learn something new, how do I make sure that they know to come to me, that I keep in contact with them, and knowing who my resources are in the organization. So like, for example, if you're getting started with R and I know somebody has a great background with R, I can maybe save what would be an 8-hour challenge for you that may make or break your, ability to feel successful and want to keep going with the project by putting you in touch with somebody who can help you. One of the things I will say is we do well is that we make sure that for our events, food, Wi-Fi, coffee, things like that are worked out. But most importantly, we make sure everybody feels welcome. So everybody gets greeted, everybody gets engaged and involved. And we do a lot of that through human-centered design. So having a lot of small group activities. Another important thing with the relationship building aspect is since we have the power to bring so many people from so many different groups together who care about the same issues, sometimes just letting them go. So our last hackathon was really focused on criminal justice, and we had a ton of people from multiple charitable organizations and civic organizations at our hackathon. And like I told Carlos, I said, one thing is we can just do more if they meet each other and know how to find each other and help each other, then we can just doing projects for them. What we're definitely still learning and improving at, though, like I said, is kind of the long-term engagement. This is like kind of loose association of people. And I want people to feel especially like they belong to this organization, they're part of this organization, and they're personally invested in the success of it and its projects. Like I said, we modified that over time. We mentioned that we're doing shorter hackathons because we don't want it to be, we noticed we're kind of veering towards a pattern where it's like you come in for, 6 to 8 hours on a weekend day or a whole weekend. And we made them almost competitive engagements at some point. Like there was winners and losers and this and that. And that we discovered that formula didn't work. And so what we want to do is have you continually engage for small chunks of time. I love what you said about actually having weekly hack nights. And I would like to talk more about how you make sure you have people available always for those events without them feeling burnt out and things like that. But yeah, it's grassroots, and I work with some amazing people, and there's all sorts of little details. Carlos is amazing at bringing people together. We're lucky that with Techlahoma, as a parent organization, they're very good at making people feeling like they belong to one, or at least some of our child organizations. And so that helps us with funding and visibility. Just because every time any of our meetings in town are having any event, we make sure that they kind of promote us as a larger community as a whole. So, any questions?
Do you have any, what are your small group activities kind of along the same line as Jill's, or any other things that you might find as icebreakers or along the human-centered design aspect?
No, and that's actually, like I said, we have the human-centered design stuff that we'll do, but those are more formal events. And I think we've done them like once or twice as hack nights, and I think they'd probably be good to do more. Really, it's still like this loose association kind of thing. And we're lucky that it works well because people kind of come in and out. And so we at least have people who return to the fold, I guess you could say, because we're kind of a constant presence for them, even if they do get burned out and go away for a little while. But a lot of that is, I know Luke, who is one of my predecessors, and something I try to do, I moved around a ton growing up, so I know what it was like to drop into a new place with new people and not know anybody. So I know I always work very hard to start immediately trying to give somebody, make them feel welcome, introduce them to people I think they'd work well with, and give them something to make them feel involved and engaged. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, the problem is we have kind of a roller coaster of engagement. And so people kind of coming on and coming off and coming on and coming back off based on their energy levels. So our big thing is we're working to figure out how to have a more sustainable pattern of engagement, pattern of events and things like that.
So Brittany, Janet asked you how many people are in your leadership team and how many people show up to hackathons?
So it's just me and Carlos right now. And that was one of the things when you mentioned the weekly nights, I would love to grow our general leadership team. On hackathons, it varies. So there's been ones where we probably have like, I would say 8 or 10 coders, and actually even more than that sometimes. We've probably gotten up to like 16 to 20 with regular hackathons. And then a few community members. We kind of surprised ourselves on our latest one in the criminal justice sphere because we filled out all 50 RSVPs a couple weeks before the event. And then we were kind of like, oh crap, we've never had a plan for this level of this level of involvement and this level of attendance before. So luckily we've been definitely growing with our visibility and with clearly picking up causes that a lot of people get very, very enthusiastic to be able to make a difference in. At that point, it was making sure, once again, we had the catering, we had the coffee. I know some of us paid out of pocket to try and make sure that happened. We had a wonderful sponsor in that we have a local organization that's actually does consulting in that space. As a not-for-profit, they help out all of the various charitable and civic organizations. But so,
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So the next item on the agenda is to kind of talk about. Sorry, wrong sheet. So we're about 2 weeks away from the event. So a lot of your planning is hopefully already done by now. in that final 2 weeks, I thought maybe, some pushes for some of these things that you guys are asking about. Like social media at this point isn't as much to drive attendance as it is to drive buzz. So you want people talking about the event more than, you're too worried about registration. If you're still worried about registration right now, you want to do a huge push over the next week. Because inside of a week, you're still going to get some registrations, but that 2 week to 1 week time frame is when you get the majority of them, at least for most events. So the biggest thing with social media, and I did put a link to the social media strategies, and that kind of runs not just Twitter, but like the whole kind of gambit of what you would want to do. And I think I even broke it out by timeline. Look at me. Go ahead.
I was going to say that I noticed you did. I was very excited because that's what we're working on now is the social media blast. And it's like, oh, there's good guidance. I don't know if I'm being pestering, if I'm too much, if I'm too little. So I love any outside validation on how is a good approach.
Yeah. So at this point, like the big thing you're trying to do is what I would do right now is figure out, look at your registration list, figure out who's not in the room, who you want to be in the room. And that's who you start targeting and you start inviting. If that's attendees, partners, other organizations that work in the space that your theme is, whatever that is, figure out who's not in the room and spend the next 2 weeks trying to get them in the room. That's going to bring a huge amount of value to your attendees, and that buzz alone, they'll bring their own attendees with them. So you'll bump that number anyway. Does that make sense? Like those are the biggest things. I highly recommend at least once a month, kind of look through the registration, and as you're planning an event, figure out who has an RSVP that you really want there. Because that list sometimes changes a bit. As you notice some people, you start getting people to connect and show up. So another thing like right now to really be used in your social media is spreading your sponsorship love. Don't wait until the event and don't wait till after the event to really give those sponsors love, because you want them to come back. You hope that they're reoccurring sponsors. So the longer you give them love, the more you show your attendees how they're going to engage with the sponsors, the happier they'll be. Oftentimes they'll give you a little bit of leeway when you do that. I love to, if they send us swag, we figure out a fun way to do something with it. We've done videos. We had a sponsor send a bunch of fuzzy dice. We had videos of our members playing, juggling with them. We had members playing a fake game at shuffleboard with them, and video that and send it off to the we put on social media and stuff, and replied the sponsors and stuff. They loved it, that kind of stuff. We did a slingshot contest with Google headbands once. All this kinds of stuff. Sponsors love it because they can share that kind of stuff. But really, part of that focus is not just like who you don't have there now, it's who you want to build a relationship for the next event. Because you should kind of always have your eye on what's the next event. And so that helps with all that kind of fun stuff. So those are the like biggest, my biggest 2 week strategies. As far as like love, attendees, emails. Sit down. MailChimp is the most amazing thing ever created. Sit down and write those emails now. Do a 1 week, do a 3 days, do the day before, do the day of emails if you've got a multiple day event. So they get something every morning telling them what the agenda is and what's expected and things like that. I write them out for our sponsors. I write them out for our panelists with directions and things like that. So that way everybody knows what to expect, what time to be there, what's going on. It saves you a little bit of time when they arrive, not having to explain everything, hopefully. Load them all into MailChimp once, and then you don't have to worry about it. It's just one less thing that you have to do. Just like I totally love social media schedulers. Anything you have on a schedule, we stick in the social media scheduler and then let those things go the whole time. And then we can just augment it with cool stuff that's going on. Those are our first two big things, 2 weeks strategy. Did you guys have questions about that?
Social media scheduler is not a thing I've heard of before. What is this?
Oh, so like Hootsuite, Social Sprout. I think we use Hootsuite mostly because it's free. There are a few that are, Buffer's great. There are a few that are really cool, but they cost money, so I don't use them as much, but they are cool. So, but basically what it does is it lets you, like Hootsuite lets you write out, you attach which social media you have, and then you load you can attach your Twitter account and your Facebook account. Then you load the tweets in there and schedule them. So they automatically go off on a schedule and I don't have to worry about it. We use them all week long, partially because all of our social media team has real jobs. And so Code for Charlotte's email or Twitter account would be really quiet except for Tuesday nights. So we schedule stuff all the time, but very much use it during an event. And then that way you can say good morning and welcome. And that's going out at the same time as the rest of your social media team's kind of waking up and getting there, as well as the caterers getting there and the attendees are getting there, and you want to greet them face to face. And you don't want to be sitting at your computer typing in things or on your phone looking like you're not engaged. They're super helpful. Any other questions about that? Sweet. And so I think the last thing, and then I'm going to open it up. So here's the forgotten part of pretty much all event planning. It's the storytelling afterwards. Write your blog post and then write an email that promotes your blog post and send that to everyone. Send that to your newsletter list, send that to the people who arrived, the people who didn't, the people that registered but didn't show up, your sponsors, the people you want to be future sponsors, the people you want to be future partners. Send it to everyone. Include pictures, talk about how much fun you guys had, some great outcomes that happened, whatever the case may be. But whether it's created, like some sponsors prefer like more social aspects, some of them prefer more like report aspects. If you have a super active sponsor, I would ask them how they want their messaging done if they care. Some of them do, some of them don't. But make sure that you do that follow-up storytelling, because it helps that continuity and it helps those projects become, a lasting project instead of just something that you did over a weekend and you filled out a bunch of Post-its and you stuck them on a wall and you guys talked to people, but nothing ever actually happened. That follow-up is how you give them information, how they can start showing up to your weekly events, how they can, continue that process, how they can forward their project ideas, who wasn't in the room that you're really excited to introduce to the stuff that they did over the weekend, all of that kind of stuff. So that storytelling and that follow-up is super important. If you know that you have an attendee that you were sure were going to be there, you know that they were going to be super excited, but then they never like checked in, reach out to them. I at least always try to do that. And, just say, we missed you. Thanks for going. We can't wait to see you another time. This is what they did, and do a couple of those personal ones, especially if you're looking to build leadership and you're looking to build engagement. That's always, I find, really helpful. I love when I register to an event, and if I don't make it, somebody notices I didn't make it. So I imagine other people are probably the same way, right? Granted, I don't want them to notice when I leave because I like to ghost, but I do like when they notice that I didn't show up. And they're not like, oh, well, you registered, we bought you lunch and you didn't show up. That doesn't make me as excited, but hey, we missed you, totally does. The other thing that almost nobody does, and this is not just a tech thing, and this is not just a developer thing, documentation. Document what your content looks like. Do it early, because this is going to, especially for those of you that want to work with other brigades and other organizations, if you document and want to be better at sharing your process and delegating, one thing that Code for Charlotte and specifically myself is really crappy at is delegating. But the only way I can delegate stuff is if everybody understands what my vision of it was. So you'll notice in the resources section, I put two additional, I think I put like 3 additional resources, but 2 of the important ones is a documentation for all of the human-centered design activities we did over Hack for Change, which I think there are a bunch. We did a solid 10 of them. I just linked the whole folder so you can see all, you should be able to see all of them. If you can't, let me know. And I'm happy to make sure I fix that. But that's the only way your team knows what you expect them to do or how to set it up, or, you know, what needs Post-its, what needs markers, what needs the giant folder thing that you printed, what doesn't need anything. It needs everybody sitting in one thing staring at a screen. So document it. And then document the questions that you give. Like I put in both the social mapping, which is standing in the 4 corners of the room. That's what it's actually called. From both our economic mobility workshop for Hack for Change, as well as the icebreaker for the Brigade Congress. Both of them have some explanation of kind of what that looks like and how you do that. Questions about that one? It is totally a curse of the pink hair. You guys are super quiet. I just threw like a whole fire hose of information at you and no questions.
I was furiously typing. I think it's part of it. It's a lot to take in, but it's awesome. Also, the pink hair is awesome.
One thing that we've noticed when we use things like Eventbrite and Meetup for our promotion, we getting the organizers in there. Once you get to a certain level, you become a suggested event for other people like you. So we like to push that as early as possible, get all the organizers in there and getting all of them, so that once we do it, so all of a sudden, everyone who's interested in data analytics is hearing about our event this week.
Yeah,
I keep getting a notification of a new registration about every 15 minutes, and I've got one every day. So we passed that threshold that in the algorithm on Eventbrite, it does that. So we're seeing that now. So that's one of the really good thing about driving that registration without driving registration. Not
exactly.
Forced effort, making it be, even though it's an algorithm, it's an organic algorithm way of doing it. So
exactly, like we use Eventbrite and Splashthat, depending on kind of what it is, but they're both basically the same thing, other than Splashthat makes you let you design cool looking websites. So if your event doesn't have a website, Splashthat is amazing because it actually looks like a website. And Facebook and Meetup, because your influencers, that the people that you invite that you want to come because they're going to tell other people to come, and they're going to share your message because they're super active on, whatever platform you're hitting them up on. They come from all different platforms. I have some that only use Facebook. I have some of them that only use Twitter. So we put posts. It's kind of a pain in the butt when you're doing registration and check-in because you got to kind of combine all of those. But seeing that amplification is worth, a spreadsheet merge.
So to be clear, all 3, and you're using multiple registration systems, yeah?
I do. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying I do. Because I have some people that will share a Facebook event, but are less likely to, they'll invite people to a Facebook event, but they're less likely to share a link to Eventbrite. Why? I have no idea. It's just the way that some people, if you invite them to something, and especially the way Facebook works, you invite them to something, and if it's an event, they hit interested, that automatically shares with everybody they're friends with. Which that boost is worth they all have basically the same, language. It's not like I tweak it a little bit, but I'm not really writing new stuff for every single platform. We write at the very beginning, like in our design initial brainstorm, that's when I write out all the messaging for an event, and we stick with that messaging, and that's what goes out to everything, and that's what everything is based around. I think that was in the first. It's in one of those resources. I gave you guys a whole
Yeah, you did.
fire hose. Sorry.
One of the neat tricks that I learned years ago about Eventbrite is that you can also create custom links which track the different places where you push it out. So you can create a special link for Twitter and push it out through Twitter or Facebook, and then you can kind of get some really neat metrics. That helped for, I think, 3 years of kind of city camp data. It was really useful to see, and sorry for the bias, but Facebook was really effective, and I think it's just less clicks.
Awesome. Do you guys have other questions?
If I could just jump in really fast,
Yeah.
Jill, I don't have any question. I just want to like compliment. I clicked into your resources, and I think that they'll be really, really helpful in how we're like planning this event and future events as well. So I'm really glad that you shared them with us, and I thank you for sharing your expertise in general.
Sure, I'm happy to do it. So that planning dashboard that I shared with you, I love the hell out of that. It's kind of, I also really like spreadsheets because I think they make it easier for me to see things. But when that thing is filled up, you've done everything. Once you've filled in all those columns, and that to-do list is, everybody has something assigned, which is, for me, that's super important because I'm not good at delegating. And those due dates are, I backtrack those due dates depending on when the event is and set that all up. Once all of that stuff is done, you're like, you can sit there and like drink at your event. You're all done. I find it very useful. Let's see. Oh yeah. You're welcome to share the marketing bits or the planning stuff. It's all in Vue, so you guys can all copy and use it. I'm not a very good coder, but my process is totally open source. So do you guys have anything else you'd like to say? We got 2 minutes. Hey, Patrick, you wrote something about what LA is doing. You want to say anything about it?
I don't see him anymore.
I saw him move around. Maybe we lost him. Anybody else? Okay. You mean I'm going to end like 2 minutes early? Are you proud of me? Excellent. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Hopefully the lovely hotel room in the background. And otherwise, if you guys have questions about the like the resources I linked or whatever, let me know. I'll look at the questions again and see if there's any other answers too.
How's this? If no, I can add myself to them, right? Or copy it. Okay. Never mind.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys again. Let me know if you need anything running up to your Open Data Day events, and or if there's like this stuff is helpful. If there's other things that are more helpful, let's continue doing them, and making sure we pull on people to tell you about different stuff that they're working on. Cool.
Cool.
Excellent. Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Jill.
Thanks, Jill.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Was I?